Yes. If I just enjoy the drop. Just so completely. It's so hard. It's like the 15
Call you New Jack?
Just call him New Jack. Good news is I have to break for the summer, so I really only have a day. New Jack is actually when I started couldn't find his truck, so New Jack. Well, Jack like broke his tripod in the middle of like. Breaking New Jack. Wired on glass. I got an app for it. After the blood, I didn't put it on the line block. Because are you not an academic weapon, Henry? Okay, so did you be quiet on it? I did not pay attention. So that's like, so. Yeah, I changed all of mine. He's right. Yeah. I wasn't early out, but I'm actually, not really cheap. Slowly making its way around. Yeah, you're right. Yes, I agree. That being said, they should have got yeah, I think the question is that the product that that was very telling me that. You got better. Have you watched the Red Sox? No, but it's very right on. It's so good. The meeting was on his line, but I just want to post it. No, it's very good. No, the reason why I asked is, like, pretty sure all this explanation of Jaron Duran and WBC. No, we're just talking to him. I really wanted to ask. Well, he has a, yeah, I think his dad is Superman. Oh, okay. Or he's like, maybe not like Taiwan Walker. Yeah. It's like, it's really, it's like this. Should have had a collection. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Which is like, what do you found? There's one other one. And it's saying that one. Here's what I think happened. I think everyone came out and saw line and figured that's what they created and started playing to about it. And they're like, we don't want to jump the line or to come down and wait and make our way around. Sure. Sure. I feel like it was above the shot. Pretty good guess. All you Alex, he went for the second or third. I'm surprised. I don't think we have to wait. Yeah, that's what's stopping the agent. They're right. Speaking of guys named Brock, I'm here for a long team.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're joined by Coach Rob, and we're going to have him make an opening statement, and then we'll go ahead and take some questions. So, Coach, whenever you're ready.
Yeah. Morning, everybody. How we doing? Good. You already got your hand up? Are you waiting? Okay. I was messing with you. Yeah, we had a great spring. I think, you know, for us, you're looking obviously for development of young players to get a lot of reps, and that certainly wasn't any different for this spring here at Alabama. And I thought we did a good job getting those guys incorporated both through necessity and opportunity. I thought the guys, we pushed them. Worked on some new things and some new parts of the offense, some wrinkles that we're trying to get in, which you do every spring. And I thought for us, the development of that and some of the parts of the system that we're working on, I thought were a huge part of that. And I thought the guys just right away, just their response and commitment is really what you think about when you come to Alabama. It is just you're in a town and a place where this is all that matters, and you love it, and that was their commitment level, and I felt like that was something we were able to build off of every day, is just how the guys would show up and work and be excited about the next day of practice, so love that part of it. I will open it up from there.
Thanks, Coach. Start in front right here today.
Yeah, somewhat obligatory question. Tell us about the progress you saw from the quarterbacks and where that battle stands.
No questions on the quarterbacks today. I'm messing with you. That would have been disappointing, huh? I was super happy with all three of them. I mean, I think that, you know, from a competitive standpoint, that's the first thing you want to see is do all three guys have the competitive stamina to play the position? Because if you're not ready for that type of scrutiny and that type of just the competition level that you need to have and the mindset that you need to have as a quarterback to play at any level, much less in the SEC here at Alabama. I think that those guys showed that competitive stamina every day. And you know, as far as development, I thought all three of them have, you know, different strengths and weaknesses that we were working on, you know, trying to celebrate the strengths and really work on some of the weaknesses. And obviously you have a wide range there from a first-year player in Keelan to a guy like Ty that's been around the block and kind of middle of the road as far as experience is Austin. So I thought from those parameters, how the guys got together and worked together on building their own game, I thought was really impressive, you know. And for us, I thought that was the starting point, is just how do you get each guy to grow in their each individual spots, and they did a good job with it.
Go to front left here, Chase.
You guys carried three quarterbacks in the spring, scholarship-wise anyway. Traditionally, obviously, college coaches used to like to carry four, but with the transfer portal making it hard to hang on to a fourth, is three quarterbacks kind of the new number to carry?
I think that's probably fair. I would never say no, you know, like we're never going to have a fourth scholarship quarterback. I think every year presents potentially differently as far as where you have guys staggered in their classes and things like that. You know, so you never want to say you can't add a fourth guy, especially if it's a unique situation. But for us, I think, you know, the timing and where those guys are at developmentally, you're in a pretty good spot.
Staying on the left side of the back row to Katie.
You talked about some young guys getting reps out of necessity and opportunity. Just what did you learn about the offensive line this spring with some of the injuries you've had, some young guys getting more reps?
Yeah. You know, we had more versatility than I initially anticipated. And what I mean by that is Olas was a guy that got out there and played left tackle almost every day, but certainly had opportunity at left guard. And I think Olas could play left tackle. I think he could play right tackle. I think he could play left guard. So you see a guy like that is cleanly able to function from the outside to the inside, and you're really happy about the versatility you can get there. So he's one guy that stood out. I thought Cam and Gino were guys that really stood out as far as they could play left guard and right guard, and then Gino could play left, right, or center. You know, so that part, you just look at those three players right there from the interior standpoint, and man, you feel really excited about where you're at and where you're going. So those are guys that showed up every single day.
Jump back over to the right side. Let's go.
Yep.
What stood out about Rico Scott when he first got here, and what sort of progress have you seen him make this spring?
Good question. Rico, I think the first thing that stood out to me was a very serious kid about his game, and very intelligent. And a guy like that has the ability to play on the outside and then still function in the slot and have a role. You want more guys like that, honestly, that can line up in all three spots. And we've always had a few guys like that everywhere I've been that are able to, you can get into different spots. It's one of the things I've always thought that we did a good job with our offense as far as moving people around, so people can't just get, hey, this is where Ryan Williams is every single play, this is where Rico's at. And so for Rico to be able to create that versatility and position flex, I thought was really big for him.
We got 2 questions on the front row on the left. Let's go to Tony first, and then we'll go to Colin right after that. Tony, go ahead.
You have 6 running backs. How do you kind of foresee how spreading the ball out at that position? And is there an ideal number maybe that, you kind of like at that, like in terms of carries?
Well, I think last year's squad would probably tell you 6 ain't enough. It's running back's a tough position, and that's a physical position to have to play every day. So I think the development of that spot, even when you feel really good about maybe your top 3 to 4 guys, you still know like there's a opportunity for the 5th guy. And so I think developing the guys behind those top 3 or 4 is critical. I feel really happy to where we're at. I think obviously, Jam is the elder statesman in the room and certainly has the most experience. And I thought it was really good for me to see Jam the last couple of scrimmages when we were live. It was the first time I'd seen him out there breaking tackles and, just kind of showcasing some of the things that he can do. He's an extremely bright player, understands pass protection very well. And then obviously Rich is a guy that's played some ball here as well, and different skill set, a little more of just the straight line physical runner. But I was surprised, honestly, when Coach G talked to me about Rich, how much kind of pass protection was an issue as far as last year for him, just understanding schematically what was going on. I think Rich put in a lot of time and really improved himself as a pass protector, because it surprised me, honestly, that, when he said that, it kind of caught me off guard. I was like, wow, I feel like Rich has done a good job of being dialed. And then Daniel Hill, I thought, was one of the guys that maybe stood out as much as anybody this spring. I thought he really did a nice job, physical runner, very nimble for how big he is, can stick his foot in the ground and get vertical, excellent pass catcher out of the backfield, showed a lot of toughness throughout spring, and I thought he really showed up quite a bit and improved as much as anybody out there.
Okay, let's go to Colin, staying on that front left.
Hey, Ryan, you mentioned the offensive line previously, but wondering what development you've seen out of the Arkell Anungwam, the Ball State transfer, kind of the progress that he's made over the course of this spring.
Yeah, I thought Arkell, really did a nice job, worked a lot. He worked both sides, right and left tackle. I think that was probably new to him. He is young to the game of football in general. So I think, as far as a project type player, that would certainly be kind of fit the mold for where he's at. His commitment level is off the charts. He stays after every practice and, tries to work drills, and just really, I think for him right now as a developmental player, he is just trying to get his skill set where it needs to be so that he can compete consistently.
Jump over the right side, 3rd row, go to Matt.
What do you think of how Jay Lindsey over here?
There you are.
Yep. What do you think of how Jay Lindsey stepped up, sort of in the absence of other scholarship tight ends?
When you say others, you mean all. Yeah, he did a good job. It was great. Jay, you always look for those type of opportunities where somebody has to make an impact in a tough stage. And, for Jay to have to step in that role and really take over after the rest of the guys, had went down, he got better. I mean, it was kind of necessity is the mother of invention, right? And for Jay, it certainly was it. And I thought he answered the bell well. I thought for him, pass catching and things like that, being able to separate and find opportunity at the second level was something that he needed to work on. And I thought he did a good job of that, and then just being, I think that Jay can be a run blocker kind of guy, like your true anchored Y that gets a couple throws here and there, but is kind of that tough guy mentality. And I thought he showed up.
Go to Alex on the right.
Wilkin Formby was a guy who maybe battled the learning curve a little bit last year. I'm curious what you saw in terms of progress with him at right tackle.
Well, Wilkin, one of his things, was the physical part, just like any young offensive lineman. And, you know, tip of the cap to Dave Ballou and his staff. Nobody does it better anywhere in the country than them. And where Wilkins at now compared to where he was at physically last year, there's a big body of work that's been done. And I thought even just, if you just take run blocking, Wilkin had to work a ton at pad level, hand placement, you know, just being able to engage people when he, you know, obviously a longer player. And I thought you could see the physical development with him. He just looked like a different player out there very early on, because my early impression, you know, of Wilkin was just the film that I had seen from last year. And, you know, guys like that, you come into a situation like this and you hope that they've made some big strides. And I certainly think Wilkin had done that and was really happy with where he ended up this spring. He's got a long ways to go. Still got a ton of work to do. He knows that. And he's ready to get to work.
We'll jump right across the aisle, finish up with EG.
Hey, Coach, what did you find yourself spending the most time on in regards to installing your offense this spring while also integrating it with what Coach Sheridan and Coach DeBoer had already built previously?
Quarterbacks, mainly quarterbacks. And I think I mean that in a good sense, in that, you know, the investment with those three guys, you know, what you wanted to see was who are the guys that were going to be able to take in a game plan and function correctly. And so for us, schematically, some of the things that we did and some of the things that were going to be required of the quarterback this year was a lot. And some of the nuances that go with that take a lot of work. And luckily for us, you know, we got a great situation, honestly. Like Nick and I have always worked well together, and you know, being in the room together and being able to coach those guys, and then having the freedom when we feel good about the message that's being sent, that it's everybody's hearing and getting the same feedback is encouraging. And that's a part I felt like, you know, we really pushed that room a lot this spring. And, you know, I know everybody wants to know about that position and where things are at. And I would say this, at the end of the day, if we're playing a football game tomorrow, Ty Simpson would start, and he earned that. Okay, and I know that's the line everybody's looking for, but that is what he earned. Austin Mack made huge strides, and also available reps were the same, you know, and he did a really good job. He came out and developed, just was some of the nuances and take care of the football and things like that. Thought Ty showed out a little bit better. And then honestly, Keelan exceeded my expectations. I think for a young man his age, he never gave in to that opportunity. You know, we challenged him with that. Don't give into, I'm a freshman and this and that. And he didn't. He reminds me, I mean, I say this all the time to him, and I mean it as the biggest compliment. He reminds me so much of Michael Penix, just in his demeanor. You know, he has such a calm demeanor. Sometimes, you know, you need to find the other edge of that and put a little bit of rush on it. But he did a great job, you know, and he had a couple days at the end that, you know, he wished he had played a little bit better. But, man, I thought he made huge strides. Those guys all, you know, Nick did a great job of managing the number of reps for guys, trying to keep the opportunity very equal. And by no means does that mean that we're playing a game tomorrow, you know, and I think there's still a lot of work to be done. I think the message really is that, you know, we got to be even better. And the guys, you know, I know that they'll take that the right way and they understand those things, but essentially, you know, we're not going to be satisfied with the quarterback room until it's how it's supposed to be. Man, it wasn't perfect this spring, but I thought we were trending the right way the entire time. And so the competitive spirit and the acknowledgement of each other as a competitor in that room was very mature, honestly, you know, and it could have been very different than that. So I'm blessed to work with those guys every day. I'm fired up. We got three really, really good quarterbacks.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
You bet. You guys were all looking for that one, I know. I had to hold it at the end.
Thank you. All right, we're joined by Coach Womack. We'll have him make his opening statement, then we'll take some questions. Whenever you're ready, Coach.
All right. Surprised y'all are still here for me. Okay, I'm going to be brief in some of the things overview the spring, but I do want to hit on a couple of things that we emphasize just coming out of this past season. One of the great advantages, right, is continuity, both coaches, players, and being able to take upon your experiences from a year ago and apply that to how you're going to build your roster and your defense going into our second season here. So the first thing that we wanted to make sure we did is we wanted to continue to build depth that we can trust when it matters most. You think about certain games that we had this past season, particularly on the back end, right? We did not have a lot of depth, and it showed up. You're playing Tennessee, you're playing really well. In the second half of that game, 5 of our top 6 defensive backs, were out, and we had not built enough depth there at that position to be able to handle that, and so those are things that I think that guys that are efficient in their execution, guys that we can trust to go out there and do their job, and I thought we've addressed those needs in a number of areas, which I'm excited about. We wanted to create more negative plays. When you look at some of our measurables and statistics and all those things from last season, there's a lot of great numbers to point towards, but one thing that I thought we missed the mark on was creating negative plays and affecting the quarterback in the backfield, and so that's something that schematically we can get better at. Point of emphasis, we can get better at it. Fundamentally, we can get better at it, and a lot of it is just doing your job. A lot of times when you create negative plays and you affect the quarterback in the passing game, it doesn't mean that you just win a one-on-one battle, but you rush as a unit and you keep the quarterback in the pocket as we show them different coverages on the back end, and those are things I think we took steps in the right direction. We wanted to continue to become more and more disciplined in limiting explosive plays, and also keep the penalty numbers lower. I think we've got guys that are playing with more discipline, playing within themselves, doing their job, nothing extra, no foolish penalties. I think in 3 scrimmages that were all over 100 plays that we ran, we only had 5 penalties amongst those 3 scrimmages on defense, and so that's a really tremendous number to look towards. And really, I think 3 of those 5 penalties happened on guys that were maybe 3rd or whatever on the depth chart. So some real positives there in terms of the discipline that we're playing with right now coming out of spring. And then probably the last thing is continuing to bring more people along to understand how to play with offensive recognition. And that ultimately, right, when you get to a 3rd down or a red zone or a 2-minute drive, whatever it may be, right, to have that offensive recognition, to recognize what the offense is getting ready to do and to play with more anticipation. And those are things that I think we're starting to bring some younger players along to play with a little more offensive recognition, and that now needs to continue to carry into the summertime, and then certainly fall camp, and then you get all those reps right before we open up against Florida State.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
Chase on the far left.
Yeah, during the spring, the players brought up Jeremiah Beeman's name a lot as somebody who made some big steps. Can you just speak to the spring that he had?
Yeah, really pleased with Beam and the way that the steps that he has taken this spring. I think you saw pieces of that at the end of the season, even in bowl preparation, and then what he was able to do and execute in the bowl game. He did a really nice job for us in the bowl game, and then I thought took his game to another level in the spring. And so there's a big body, a big frame that can move. He's athletic, and he is operating with consistency, right, that we can trust. And so I'm excited about his trajectory.
Opposite side, Nick.
Yeah, what kind of role do you envision for Dejoun Lee in his first season with you guys?
Yeah, I think time will tell, but I think Dejoun is very much on pace to contribute for us as a freshman, and that's always impressive to me when you can have a freshman that can compete in the SEC. But the obviously the measurables, right? The talent, the skill level, the discipline. He reminds me a little bit of Zabian, and how disciplined and detailed Zabian was when he got here. Mo Linquist does a tremendous job with that group in terms of building in the fundamentals and the discipline discipline to do your job over and over again. You know, you can have 60 snaps as a corner and you can play 58 of them really well, but if you're not consistent in those other 2 plays, right, you had a bad day. And so I think he's done a really nice job of some of the things that I have seen him, not do well enough or be exposed on. He gets those things fixed, and he can sustain that fix throughout the rest of spring. And so if he'll continue on that trajectory through the summertime and then into fall camp, I think, you know, you're going to see him on the field.
We'll go to Johnny all the way in the back on the left.
LT Overton had some flashes of brilliance last year, especially that A&M game. Just wanted to get your opinion on how he's grown this spring and how you plan to use him maybe in a more versatile role next season.
Yeah, you know, I think LT, you know, is a guy that you feel like when he's out there on the field, you can trust him, right? He's going to do his job. He's very consistent. He's a team player. And I think that he can do some things in terms of generating pass rush, that he can take that another step from where he was a year ago. At times he affected the passer, but I think in terms of being able to finish in the backfield, that's something that we hope that I think we see him taking steps in the right direction amongst a number of other guys up front there. But to me, you know, LT has worked his tail off to put himself in position to compete at really the highest level, you know, I mean, of the SEC, and so we're excited for him and excited to kind of see him take that next step.
Staying on the left side, let's go to Katie.
When we talked to the players last week, Bray talked about the returners being a lot more comfortable in the defense in year 2 and being able to focus on like the little details instead of just learning the defense. Is that something you've kind of seen with the returners?
Yeah, I think without question, you know, there's a comfort level, right? There's an understanding. There's a difference between knowing and understanding, right? Our players knew at times what to do a year ago. I think now they understand what to do, right? And when you have an understanding of our concepts and how they're applied situationally, you can fix things on the fly when you add that offensive recognition piece. And so, one, we have more players that are just experienced, not just in our defense, but in terms of understanding the game of football and how it's supposed to be played. And then, you know, I think there's a tremendous amount of buy-in right now. I think our guys are excited about what we're doing. You know, we've been able to have continuity in the defense and also add some wrinkles that the guys like. And so, you know, you want them to have fun. You want them to be excited to come to work. You want them to be challenged mentally and physically. And I think that we have kind of hit all of those metrics this spring.
Jump over to the right side to Alex.
You've got Damani and Zabian coming back. You're excited, obviously, about Dijon. Cam Calhoun's made good strides, it sounds like. And, oh, by the way, you have Chuck McDonald coming in.
Yeah.
Where do you fit all these guys in, and is it a fun problem to solve as a defensive coordinator?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I mean, we have something that we didn't have a year ago, which is depth on the back end, right? And that, you know, that's exciting. Quite honestly, it's what I expected when I came here to Alabama, right? That we would have great depth, and you know, you're always going to. You know, have years, right, where you have to kind of rebuild some of that depth, and you found yourself in a position of guys that left for the draft and guys in the transfer portal and a transition of you know, from Coach Saban to Coach DeBoer, right, to where we just didn't have the depth probably that we needed to be consistent on the back end throughout the year. And even that, I think our guys did a tremendous job. But now, you know, you feel like you have some bodies that you can work with. And I think, you know, some of those guys have position versatility. You know, we're going to be able to move some pieces around between the corner and safety room and dual train guys so that we find creative ways to get the right packages on the field. Because I think, to your point, these are the questions that I ask myself and the staff all the time. How do we get our best 11 on the field in the right moments? You know what I mean? And that's really my job, to be able to figure those things out, be it packages, be it situationally, and then ultimately, right, how do we make sure that the best 11 represent us when we step on the field for the first play and the last play.
We've got time for a couple more questions, starting with Colin on the left.
Hey, Kane. I'm wondering what you've been able to see from Ivan Taylor. What has he been able to glean from watching, I guess, Keon Sabb recover, but still be a part of the room, from Bray Hubbard, like those veterans that kind of know your system and know what to expect out of Alabama safety?
I would absolutely love to have Ike Taylor on our team, who just finished with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but his son Ivan Taylor is doing a really good job with us as well. So he's really done a nice job. Ivan is really he's got a ton of energy. He's excited to be out there every single day. He's got a hunger to learn, and I think he's probably one of the best open field tacklers I've seen as a freshman, and being able to get people on the ground. That is a very challenging, difficult skill, and certainly one that. That I think he's really come in probably way above average for what you would see for a young freshman. And then, he's got a real knack for the ball that I'm excited, to kind of build upon that. He's got to become more consistent in what he's doing, and that really speaks to all freshmen. But one that I think, if he'll continue to strive at the level that he is right now, I see a path for him to be able to contribute.
Far right, Matt.
What do you see from Dre Kirkpatrick this spring?
Yeah, Dre, great example, right, of a guy that took a really big step from year one to year two in the off season, and Dre is another playmaker. He's a football guy, understands the game, right, makes plays when it matters most, and I thought he flashed in a number of ways this spring. And then, the thing that is exciting to me is you saw some of those things a year ago, but the highs and the lows, right, there was too much, of a polarizing, player there, right? Whereas now I think he's playing at a much more consistent level, and he's also making plays. He's another guy that has position versatility. We can play him at, the safety position and the nickel position, and so excited to kind of work with him, this summer carrying into fall camp as well.
All right, thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks, guys. Roll Tide.
I've had one, and it was super disappointing, and it was at this.
Okay, we're joined by head coach Kalen DeBoer. We'll have Coach make his opening statement, and we'll have questions. Leave your hand up for me, and we'll try to get to all of you. Coach?
You bet. Good morning, and just a few opening comments, and just I want to thank everyone who came out on Saturday. Appreciate our guys and their efforts, and get a chance to see them on the field, but also get a chance to interact afterwards, and it was great to spend some time with the fans myself too, and appreciate y'all coming out. It's a beautiful day, a lot of activities around campus, and so hopefully you took in a few of those as well. But it was back to work today. That's our team's mindset right now. Is at a short team meeting, but back in the weight room, and we're 100 days away roughly from training camp. And, we talk about taking advantage of every opportunity. And these guys back to work today, the next 2 weeks, lots of workouts, some individual one-on-one meetings that we would do anytime at the end of the season, at the end of the spring. So we're doing a lot of that. Guys taking care of their schoolwork, and then finals after that, and they'll have a short break. But I think the momentum that we carry here into May is critical. The next 3 months or so, 100 days, is really going to set up the 6 months to follow. And, the question that we've been challenging our guys with going back to January when we saw the want to, and we saw the desire is, can you sustain that level of intensity? And, refer to it as competitive stamina often, and that might be in the midst of a practice, it might be throughout the course of a week or a certain, scrimmage. It might just even be for one play. But for us, that competitive stamina, and related to what I'm talking about, is can we carry it through each phase of the off season, and then that leading to us just having this way about us, how we do things, an edge to us that carries us through the entire fall. So I'm excited about the strides we made. I think there's some depth that's being created in our team. Referred to it kind of maybe as a blessing in disguise that we had so many guys that were out still kind of going back to last season. I think it really, allowed us, forced us, in some ways to get a lot of guys more reps than they maybe would have had. And that's going to help us be a deeper and better team down the road. I'll open up for questions.
Thanks, Coach. We'll start with Charlie Potter on the right.
Yeah, hey, Coach. Just with the portal opening on Wednesday, what are maybe some positions you guys are looking to target?
Yeah, I think you're just always looking to find the right person that fits who you are as a program, someone who can make your team better, our roster better. So we have just a couple scholarships really available to us. So we'll be careful, and they got to meet all those areas that we feel good about, the culture of our team, the chemistry from within, the work that's being put in. So, I like the combination of attrition and addition that we've had, whether it's high school guys coming in, 18 of our 21 guys were here, that we signed in December. And so, they aren't going to feel like freshmen this summer, and then also a few of the transfers have come in and really done a nice job blending in as well, and defining their roles more and more every single day, asking more out of them from a leadership standpoint. So we'll be super careful on, what we do with the portal. There are some areas where we do know if we have the right person pop up, we would take advantage of that.
Staying on the right side, we'll go to Dave.
Yeah, Ryan just told us that if you guys played tomorrow, that Ty would be the guy at quarterback. What did he do this spring that made him, Ryan want to say something like that? And for you, where do you see that position right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, there's a lot of great things they've all done. Ty continues to I think trend upward. I think all of them have really added to their game. They're all at different spots because Keelan's learning the system. The other two know it better, for sure. And Ty, has been around and, just has done a nice job. I think the trending upward is a big piece of it. Ty's an accurate thrower. There's always going to be balls that every guy wants back, but I think the ability to learn from your mistakes, learn from other people's mistakes, be able to comprehend things, not be overwhelmed to think that, he's just had more time. But, they're all doing a lot of really good things together as a group. But now I will say, we're not where we need to be at the quarterback position yet. And so, I feel like that exists within our team to have that level be accomplished. But, this is part of the process. I shared with our team, we're not where we need to be as a team. I hope we don't ever think that. It's never been that case everywhere I've been, any year I've been a part of, to where you finish spring ball in April and you're like, okay, we're good to go. People ask, are you ready for the season? No, I'm not. We got a lot of work to do between now and August, and that's the case, I think, with the quarterback position.
Jump to the far left for Chase.
Can you speak to the spring that Wilkin Formby had and also a couple of the backup offensive tackles?
Yeah, Wilkin, he's really come a long ways. And we just met this morning, a group of us with him. And I think the thing that, you you lose sight of sometimes is if you flipped on the film a year ago, what would it look like? You know, we're in it every single day with him, and he's just focused on the now. But you know, you peel back a little bit, and it's. I think sometimes you forget how far a guy has come, and that's the case with him. And it's a physical piece, it's a discipline piece for every guy. But I think as an offensive lineman, especially at tackle, there's so many little details now that he's picking up on that he wouldn't have picked up on even late in the season last year. And so it's more reps. It's you know, just another cycle through, just like for all these guys of relearning the system. Hearing the details again over and over, adding to your game. But he's gotten stronger. You know, he's more confident. He's still, again, every day, got to get better. He's a tackle for us that, you know, we need to rely on to get it done, not just at an okay level, at an elite level to accomplish our goals. And I think the other guy to point out would be Olas. Olas just did a nice job having to move around a little bit. I think his probably flexibility to move different spots. You thought of him as more as an interior guy. He really continues to reshape his body and do some things that I think have really lent him to us feeling very comfortable with him in multiple spots, left side, right side, inside, outside. So I'm really proud of him. I think Arkell's a guy that's coming along. He's a developmental player, but doing a great job. His heart's in it. The guys love him. He works extremely hard. He's a blessing to have here for sure. The young guys, I think, getting thrown in the fire. Jackson Lloyd, Michael Carroll, they are going to be phenomenal football players, you know, at tackle, and they have different strengths. They come from, you know, opposite ends of the country, obviously, but you know, their exposure to different things, but they actually, you know, were really impressive, I think, and how far they've come. I'm excited about their future for sure.
Go on the middle and right to Alex.
Feels like a little bit of a luxury in today's game to have three quarterbacks who you can all sort of envision being a potential starter. I'm curious, though, with the threat of the portal, how confident are you that you can keep that group together, and what would that mean?
Yeah, I really hope that we can. And you know, I mean, when related to the portal in general, you never know, right? That possibility always exists, but I do feel good about our team and our roster as far as the general chemistry. Guys feeling like they're continuing to be developed, that they continue to have a chance to compete and have an opportunity here. I feel like that's the case at the quarterback position too. And Austin's growth, again, going back to where he was at, not even just a year ago, but just the middle of the season, seeing him continue to go this way. And, you know, 3 isn't very many, but it's probably the number we're going to have to be at quarterback. That's, you know, what we're expecting here going into the fall. So had 4 last year. I think that's kind of a unique situation. I've had 3 many times in the last few years, and you're always on edge, and the rest of the team has heard stay away from the quarterback more than they've ever heard it in their entire life this spring for sure. So, you know, a lot of questionable sacks that I didn't call the defensive line, you know, felt like they got wronged on and cheated on by me because I own the quarterback whistle. And, you know, they got to stay away, but yet, you know, they got to get close enough to get a sack and blow the play dead. But we stayed away from the quarterback, make sure those guys are all healthy and upright.
Go to Tony on the front left.
You talked about being comfortable with Olas's ability to play both positions, but in an ideal world, is him and Michael Carroll, do you like what they are at tackle, or would you rather move inside? And is tackle a position that maybe if the right guy arises, is that something you're looking for in the portal?
Yeah, good question. I think that's a good question as far as just, I think, development of guys. And I can think, and we could sit here forever and talk about some scenarios have been even over the last 2 to 3 years where a guard has moved to tackle and a tackle has moved to guard, and you thought you recruited a guy for this spot and he became an NFL player and first-round draft pick at a different one, you know. You know, Michael probably in particular, because we were obviously involved in his recruitment more so than Olas, but Michael, probably was recruited more as a guard, and he might become that someday. I don't know, but right now he's got that position flex that's really key for us, and he's got a mindset about him. Jackson's probably going to be a tackle, just a pure tackle, and then Olas, was a guard obviously, so that's what you come in thinking when you see the depth chart that was here in place before us. And we'll just keep cross-training, dual training guys, and we do that across the board at a number of positions. We got receivers that can play inside, outside. We got safeties that can play corners that can play nickel, all that kind of stuff. And that's I think going to be important for our depth and readiness when different adversity hits us.
Staying on that left side on the third row, let's go to Katie.
Ryan Grubb just told us that Daniel Hill stood out as much as anyone this spring. Just kind of what did you see from him in that running back room?
Yeah, I was really excited to see Daniel. He last fall, and still even this spring a little bit hampered a little bit with just some tweaks and injuries and stuff. And he'll end up being a really good one for us. We know that. And I felt like there was just enough that you did see last fall where he's got those just those instinctual things and running and cutting and things you expect out of a tailback, but just some subtle things that a 240, 245-pound guy doesn't do as easy as he does. And then even catching the ball to the backfield, just natural that way. He had some runs when we were in live sessions where, whether he was bouncing off of them, I think it was more of them bouncing off of him. That was really exciting to see. And he's really developing a mindset and trust and belief in himself, and that's carried on through the rest of the team. So he had a really good spring for sure.
Colin from left.
Hey, Kalen. You mentioned Keelan kind of continuing to learn this offense, and what's kind of like that next step this summer that you want to see him take to kind of, ahead of him?
I think consistency. He had some really big days, and you saw a lot of flashes of what he is capable of, and then you saw some times where just consistency, and sometimes that just means not making the big mistakes, and so it's growth, it's learning. He's in it, his head's in it. He's the same guy every single day. That's what you love about him, and so just consistency, and he's going to be a guy that you can attack a defense, and I think all our quarterbacks have that ability with their arm to get after the opponent, and so just consistent I think is the biggest thing for him, because consistency as a person, that is strong. Consistency is just the playmaking ability and the lack of mistakes. And he's learning a lot of verbiage that's brand new for him. So even just spitting that out consistently is something he's grown a lot at. I sit and try to listen in the huddle on exactly not just what he's saying, but how they're saying it. And that's all the quarterbacks, and they've really grown a long ways in their ability to kind of demand the huddle when they're in it.
Emily Grace in the middle left there.
Coach, now that you're, now that you're through spring and we're kind of touching on the transfer portal again, but what is you and your staff's approach as you navigate where college football is at over the course of the next month or so?
Yeah, I think for us as coaches, it's still, the foundation is still the same, right? Coach these guys, just continue to add to their value, add to what they can do, make them feel like they got a strong role in our team, that their development and growth continues to happen, and that we see that and that we want to be a part of that. I think just when they feel that and they get the feedback, and we can be strong with our guys. I mean, they know that we care about them, and they know that, we need them to help us accomplish our goals as a team. And, they have their personal goals too, and we want to help them accomplish it. So again, you never know this time of year. We felt last year we really didn't lose anyone at this time that we felt we're going to have going into the fall. And so definitely, I don't want to say keep our fingers crossed, but that's the case here with the portal. So I'm proud of our guys. I think they the guys that you want around you, whether it's coaches or players, they have a good head on their shoulders. They can have perspective on what they really truly have here at Alabama, and it's special, whether it's the resources that they have and the people that they have around them in the training room, in the weight room. The coaching staff, I think, is elite as well. And so these guys are getting, getting an experience that they should not take for granted. We can talk about the stories of guys who have come in and said how great it is here, or guys that have left and, maybe even wishing they could come back. And so, be careful what you ask for. The grass is definitely not greener on the other side. So I love our guys. I think we got a great group. They continue to push each other, hold each other accountable to a level of strain. And when I say accountable, it's not accountable just to, making sure you're here for this on time or doing this right. It's a level of strain. It's a level of edge. And I think they're really doing a much better job of that this year, now that they're more comfortable with who we are and what we want to be.
Go to Mike, second row on the right.
How would you assess the competition at wide receiver beyond kind of the obvious guys at the top?
Yeah, it's there are. I mean, you got some experienced guys coming back. You had Isaiah in. I thought Rico Scott had a really nice spring. We expected that. That's actually one internally we expected. We could see that happening throughout the fall. Roll grew in December. But, you can go on and on. I really like our freshmen that came in as well with Derek and Latsier. Really think we nailed it with incoming freshmen that way. They're freshmen. That's what we got to remember. And so there's some growth that they got to experience, much like we're talking about quarterback and these tackles and so forth. And then you can go into the Mbakwe's and guys that made that transition, and Jalen Hale coming back, and, go on down the line. They all are just out there competing. And I like the mindset that's developing. And I say developing because it's something I think we're capable of, but we are far from there yet. And it's to be, the best receiving corps in the country. And that's not just one or two guys or three. That's the whole unit. And whoever goes out there, we're developing more confidence that they can get the job done. I like the versatility that a lot of these guys have, inside, outside. We can move guys around, much like we've been accustomed to over many years, to where you don't know where so-and-so is going to line up. And that might not just be the receivers. That might be the tight ends, the running backs. They can line up in empty. They can be out flex. They can be in tight to the box. If you're a tight end, you can put your hand on the ground. So we got a lot of position flex, a lot of versatility. The guys are understanding the system, not just the what and how of what they're supposed to do in their execution, but also the why.
Okay, we got two more questions left, starting on the way back, Johnny.
Staying with the receivers, just wanted to get your perspective on Isaiah Horton, how his spring was, and just his size stands out when you look at him at practice or out at A-Day. Just how much of a true red zone threat was that in consideration when you were trying to go get a guy like that?
Yeah, I had high expectations for him coming in as far as who he would be, and he has definitely not let us down, or me down for sure. He's come in, and the thing I love about Isaiah is just the way he handled it. He's a guy that you want to ingrain and get yourself in there, but he went about his work. And guys, what I've seen here that come in and just do the work, they develop a respect amongst the team quicker than not, because that's what our guys care about, is who's going to come in, who really wants to be a part of this culture, who's willing to work. He has done that, and now all of a sudden you see him, because he is a productive guy. He does have that ability, and it's well-rounded. It's not just a red zone thing. That presence about him is something that's, I think, something we recognize, his teammates recognize, and have really grown a high level of respect. So he's got that body type. He caught some balls. I know it was televised and stuff. He caught some balls for Jalen at Pro Day, and he's showing out in a lot of different ways for some of us who had seen him a couple practices, but guys who can catch in-breaking routes coming in full speed and not break stride. That's something I think is one indicator of how smooth and how talented you are. But he's really fit in well. He's got a great personality, a great teammate.
All right, we'll finish up with Jimmy right here in the middle.
Coach, going back to the being able to move receivers around, can you walk through a little bit of the thinking of Ryan Williams being in the slot at times, and the benefits that's going to give the offense and the problems it will present for defenses?
Are you asking if we've been thinking about that?
No,
know you have.
Oh, okay. We have. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with Ryan. We never want to take away what he can do when he's out there isolated, but the ability for him, to get inside and get matchups, and he can get matchups against guys, but pretty much against anyone. But I also think that, we don't want to just put him in a spot. I've seen slot guys get, bracketed and so forth. And so we need to make sure that, again, that our system allows guys to get to all areas of the field. And because of Germ and because of these other guys, we talk about Isaiah, we can go on and on and on through our roster right now that can go inside or outside. That will allow, Ryan to be able to do that. So, you want the greatness of others to help you become great. And that's something that's really big. It's going to help Ryan have even a bigger season is because of the others around him. So, all right. Thank you guys. Roll Tide.